Okay, you read the title, you saw the thumbnail. Shout out to Jordan, my man. Help me with the thumbnail. Let me explain. Let me go into everything before you comment. What is up, Finn fans? We got a good one today because, again, I have not, the Dolphins aren't playing on Sunday, so there is no preview today, but I have been sitting on this video kind of talking about, what if the Dolphins keep Mike McDaniel and Champ Kelly, and why would they keep Mike McDaniel and Champ Kelly? Now, I will say this. I'm not saying that this is what I want to, but you guys know I try to give you both sides of the spectrum. I try to prepare you for everything and anything, just like I'm trying to prepare you if Tua gets traded, just like I'm trying to prepare you if Tua doesn't get traded, all of these things. So that is kind of what the video is about, is me preparing you, telling you what could happen and why things might happen the way they do. But I do have to get to some housekeeping real quick. First and foremost, I was on Teron Armstead's channel yesterday, and I got to sit down and talk to not only Teron Armstead, but also Devon Achane. Go check out the video. Go show some support. Devon Achane is a fantastic guy. We had a great conversation, the three of us. Go, please check it out. Support Devon. Support Teron. Love those gentlemen. You're going to hear a lot about this because I want to send as many of you beautiful people over to Teron Armstead's channel to not only subscribe, but to check out that video. So you'll hear a lot of this. Second, you see these awesome thumbnails, the one today, the one from yesterday, that is from my guy, Jordan Begay. I'm going to link his short in the description below because he is a filmmaker and he came out with a really good short, so I'm going to link it below. Go check it out. I think his other short is also on that site. Third thing, Eskter. New Eskter stuff. We have Black Friday coming this upcoming Friday, so let's hear what I have to say and the cool little promo you get for Eskter. Shout out to today's sponsor, and that is Eskter. I love using Eskter. I use it for myself. And you might be saying to yourself, well, what is it, Doug? It's these fantastic wallets. They are very sleek and compact wallets. Now they have these really nice ones, which are called the Parliament wallets. Now they have the leather flap on them. They hold a ton, and I'm talking a ton of different cards, up to 12 cards, plus some cash in here. They have RFID on them. That is so your stuff doesn't get stolen wirelessly. Your cards are all protected. You also see this black thing in here. What is this? This is also the finder. This is the card finder. It works on iOS. It works on Android, all that good stuff. And the way it works is you pull up your Find Me app. I have an iPhone, so it's the Find Me app. I'm not going to show you it, but it'll tell you exactly where your phone is if you left it somewhere. And I'm not going to show you because you're going to see where I live. But you just hit, hey, man, I can't find my wallet. Where's my wallet? Just hit play sound. You find your wallet. You find your flipping wallet. But on top of the cool wallets that they have now, they also incorporated some really cool things, as well as the travel size case. Now it comes with the vacuum and it comes with the bag. And as you can see in this image, it's three times to one. It holds a ton of clothes, 15 plus clothes in the item, 60% more space, portable pump, which I showed you, the module bag, anti-rip nylon, hygienic packaging. You can use this if you're going on a trip. You could use this if you're just storing your clothes for the winter or for the summer. Go check it all out. You can take a picture of the QR code. You can click on the link in the description. And again, if you use the promo code Douglie, one more time, Douglie, you get 10% off. And obviously next Friday is Black Friday. So you get a nice Black Friday sale up to 54% until November 30th. So again, you get 10% off if you use my promo code Dougley, and you get 54% until November 30th. Go grab yourself a wallet, whether it's the Parliament, whether it's the sleeker design. Go get yourself the tracker card if you want. Get the traveling case. Go check them out. Again, use that promo code. Click the link in the description or take a picture of this QR code. Eskter, thank you so much for sponsoring this video. Let's get to the rest of the video. All right, now let's jump into this Mama Jam. So, there's two people that kind of talk about Mike McDaniel and Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins. I want to really quickly listen to what they have to say, give you my thoughts and opinions, and then kind of give you, I have my little notes here of what I want to talk about with regards to essentially if they keep Mike McDaniel. So first, this is Ari Mirov. I probably butchered his name, but this is what he had to say.
All right, Ari, we're on to those AFC teams already now that you've gotten the Raiders out of the way. Where else should we be looking?
Yeah, I mean, so the Dolphins are probably the next team we should talk about up here. Like we said, they already fired their GM in Chris Greer, and Mike McDaniel has been on the hot seat all year long. Probably the first person put on a hot seat this year was Mike McDaniel, dating back to that Week 1 game versus the Indianapolis Colts. The one thing that you could say about the Miami Dolphins right now is that those players have definitely not quit on him. I mean, when you look at the Dolphins play football, there's definitely been.
I will say this, and this will be a little bit of a pushback on that. They haven't, right? And I can agree. I can wholeheartedly sit here and agree and tell you that, yes, I don't think that the players have given up on Mike McDaniel, but also there are times where the players start to play for each other and they start to play for future teams, right? So I'm not necessarily saying, yeah, they gave up on Mike and the only reason they're doing well now is because of X, Y, and Z. No, but I'm also saying that there are times where they are kind of like doing what the head coach is saying, but also in the back of their head, they're like, I need to put good film out there because I'm a potential free agent, or the new GM that's coming in, or the new regime. I want them to see me and I want them to keep me. So there's a lot that could go on.
Some games where it was embarrassing, but some of these recent games for them, they've been in it and they've been winning. They've now won 2 in a row over here, beating the Bills, which nobody expected 2 weeks ago, and then squeaking out that
Bill just lost the Houston Texans, just so you know. Craziness.
win in Madrid on Sunday versus the Commanders. So they definitely have had some impressive wins when everybody doubted them. And the remaining schedule here, they have a bye coming up, but then they have the Saints and then they have the Jets. And these are some games where all of a sudden a team that's 4-7 can now be 6-7. And it's like, does this give the owner, Stephen Ross, some thought about like, hey, the players are not giving up on him. He's still a really, really good offensive mind. And the biggest factor here for Mike McDaniel at the end of the year is going to be Tua. And the reason I bring up Tua is he still has over $15 million in guaranteed salary
we'll talk
for
about
next
that.
year. So if you're Stephen Ross and you're the Dolphins and you're Tom Garfinkel, who is somebody who's very close to Stephen Ross's ear there, you go out and ask yourself, if we fire the head coach and there's nothing to do with the quarterback, we're not going to move on from him and take on $90 million of dead money. Do you keep Mike for one more year, knowing Tua is anyways going to be here? That is something that's been brought up around the NFL. People have asked about that. The other thing about it, of course, is you still have to find a new GM. And Champ Kelly is currently the interim GM. He'll probably get an interview to become the full-time GM. But that dynamic of it is one that people in the NFL have discussed. So everyone has said this is a slam dunk. They're going to clean house. They're going to move on. I still think that's definitely a possibility.
And that's what that's what you've been and gonna consistently hear is people say like, and again, I'm gonna talk about this, but you know, the whole connection with Tua's contract, this and that, but they will also say, and cleaning house is also a possibility because no one really knows besides Stephen Ross, Garfinkel, Brandon Shore, Stephen Ross's daughter, his son-in-law. Supposedly that is kind of the hierarchy of who is making these decisions. And I'm going to make a Patreon exclusive video kind of talking a little bit about the stuff I'm hearing about that. So no one knows. No one.
But the players have definitely not given up. They've moved on from a couple of players here. They traded away Jalen Phillips, but they're still in it and they're still winning. And that's probably the most important thing over here when it comes to all of that. So that element of it, of the fact that Tua still has so much guaranteed money and those two are so tied, I think that's going to be part of the decision over here when the season comes to an end.
I might just be a fellow short nerd that enjoys the football kind of stuff, but I love Mike McDaniel. I don't know, maybe, I'm not there. I'm not in those rooms. I don't know how he really leads beyond what we've seen on, like the Hard Knocks types of things. But he very much seems like a guy that has a certain level of respect around the NFL despite his unorthodoxness. You gather that's the same thing from ownership, that they have a certain way where they look at him and just say he's a little bit different. We've seen what this offense can be when it's fully functioning with a non-concussed quarterback.
Yeah.
What's the you think there really is just like a love from the ownership group that might be playing into it?
Stephen Ross has been adamant all season long that he's not moving off from him. As soon as the Chris Greer move was made, there were statements put out that Mike is finishing the year no matter what. Like,
Mhm.
stop asking about this, stop bringing it up, and that has been the tone all year long. So even after that, there was the one embarrassing loss, a 31-6 loss to the Browns in that rain game. Everyone thought that would be it for him. They turn around the very next week and they win 34-10 over the Atlanta Falcons. So this team has never just given up on him. And that's probably the key factor when it comes to all of this. And uh, again, speaking to agents in the executive world and the coaching world, the amount of people who have defensive minded candidates this offseason who have told me that they would hire Mike McDaniel as their offensive coordinator, I've heard it from a couple of people. So he is very, very well respected around the NFL. And his offenses is definitely something that other teams would definitely want to have. So Miami knows what they have, they know what they have in him. And the most important factor right now is they have not given up on him. So it's kind of crazy when you look at it. They were 2-7. They've pulled off two in a row. They're now 4-7. They have the Saints, the Jets, the Steelers, the Bengals coming up. I mean, these are games where they should be favored. Like, there's a world over here where they some way somehow climb themselves to a 7-7 record all of a sudden. So that's possible over here, which is crazy to say.
All right, are you predicting a playoff run here? You're
I'm not.
predicting a playoff push?
So here's my thing. And then we'll get to Connor Orr and Albert Breer, and then I'll give you guys my thoughts and opinions on everything. He is a fantastic offensive minded coach. So to hear that there's defensive minded coaches that would hire him as an offensive coordinator in a heartbeat, that's not surprising to me. And you'll hear that again from Connor Orr and Albert Breer. And you also heard that on the Rich Eisen podcast when we talked about that the executive also said the same thing, who's known Mike McDaniel and knows that he is a very good offensive minded coach. But you need to be also a good head coach. And that's where he kind of falters a little bit. And that's where his growth is kind of inhibited over the past 4 years, is his head coach ability, whereas his offensive coordinating is still there, but we need a head coach. So let's see what Connor Orr and Albert Breer had to say, and then we'll talk about why they might not make a change.
Dolphins, I said it last week, Albert. We didn't throw them away. They're 16.
Right.
They won 16.
We looked at their schedule.
And we looked up the schedule.
Let the record show that we were the first people to actually look at their schedule and be like, holy crap, they're going to be 6-7 going into Pittsburgh in the middle of December.
This was the first podcast.
This was. Yeah. The Dolphins are alive. Yes.
And I want to just add this. Okay. So every year I do my coaches list, which is coming to we're wrapping it up. We're getting there. It's a big production, but I will say this. Just making some calls. I think that there is a chance that Mike McDaniel holds on to this job.
Again, if you noticed, it's not, there is a possibility that they clean house. You have Connor Orr right now saying there is a chance he keeps his job. Again, nobody knows.
And I'll tell you why, for two reasons. Okay. They like him. Dolphins like him. Mm-hmm. And if this GM search gets really competitive, okay, let's say that the Dolphins want their GM to hire their head coach, the next head coach, right? Let's say that the Dolphins don't close on the GM until January 2 or January 3. Let's say it's just a competitive search, right? And they bring in a ton of guys and it just takes a while, right? Okay, then you're already out of the coaching carousel for that year. And even if you get there on time, if you're a GM, what are you looking for in this search? And you could say whatever, but what is every team really looking for? A guy who can turn around a quarterback, call plays on offense, and be that steady offensive presence who's always
Which
going to kind
Mike's
of evolve with the
already
game.
demonstrated.
Mike already is that. And if
Yeah.
he gets fired, Albert, I guarantee you he's going to interview for at least one head coaching job and will be the top offensive coordinator candidate at every opening around the league. So,
Again, there is no pushback from me or from a lot of people that Mike McDaniel is a very good offensive coordinator. It's the head coaching stuff that he really hasn't changed since 2022.
so if you're the new GM, it's like, well, why am I firing this guy? You know
Yeah,
what
I mean,
Like,
it's easy for me to see a scenario where, like, let's say Robert Saleh becomes the head coach in Tennessee, and now all of a sudden Mike McDaniel's working with Cam Ward. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
something like that's definitely on the table. And I think, I mean, to his credit, like, so Stephen Ross, who, you know, I think has got a checkered record as owner for sure. He's still looking for his first playoff win as owner, and he's had the team since 2007. You know, but I think one thing that like, my understanding is that he had heard from enough people what a great second chance head coach Mike McDaniel would become, that I think he sort of stopped and was like, maybe I shouldn't pull the plug on his first chance so quick. You know,
This is going to build into the big portion of this video, just so you know.
You know, if all these people think that this guy is going to be great in his second try, well, can we get him there? And it made me recall Marvin Lewis, and just bear with me here. And I know we're trying to get through these games quick, but just bear with me on this one. So I had a conversation with Marvin Lewis where he went through the thing with Carson Palmer in 2010, right?
Yeah.
And he basically had enough self-awareness to realize he was like that. He'd been the head coach in Cincinnati for 8 years. And he had enough self-awareness to realize, well, 99% of guys in my spot right now would be getting fired. I'm lucky to hang on to this job. So you always hear about people going and learning about from being fired. Why don't I just evaluate myself now as it is? You know what I mean? Like, and treat this as if I'd been fired. And he revamped a bunch of stuff and brought in Jay Gruden to be his offensive coordinator. And obviously there's a separation from Palmer, which nobody wanted, but then they wind up going and getting Andy Dalton. And then he makes the playoffs 5 years in a row, you know?
Right.
And
but doesn't win. I think we're all in that situation right now as Dolphin fans, and hopefully an owner is, you know, we would need that playoff win.
And so, like, I like the idea like that, like Mike McDaniel could be a great second chance head coach. Well, wait a minute. Like, if I'm Steve Ross, like, I can understand where Steve Ross would look at that and say, maybe we ought to give him a better chance his first time around. Yeah. And so if I'm Ross and I keep him, I'm telling you, go call Marvin Lewis and have that conversation with him and, like, really analyze where you're at as a head coach. Like, we want to make it work here, but go through the process of, like, a guy who's been fired and see where you're at. And, you know, I think if he does that, like, you could wind up with, like, holy crap, this really worked out, you know? And if Steve Ross wants that, let me ask you this, Connor. They start interviewing GM candidates, right? Do you think that they would have a bias towards guys who would say, I want to keep Mike?
Well, and this is what happened with the, I mean, one of the first GM searches I covered with the Jets and John Idzik, right? And all the coaches or all the GMs that came in.
That's a big point for me. And you guys, I've said it to you time and time again. If we have an opportunity to get the best general manager in here that could definitely turn this team around. Obviously, there's no guarantee that the next GM, regardless if around the NFL and experts say that, oh, this is the best candidate out there and the Dolphins got the best next GM and da-da-da, there is no guarantee that he is or will be. But if there's that opportunity, that you can go out and get that guy, and that guy comes in and gives you the whole plan of what to do with the cap space, what to do with draft picks, what to do with the talent on the team, because that's what they're going to ask him. And I'll make a video kind of preparing you guys, like what do they ask these GMs or these interviews that happen? They want, give me your full-fledged idea and your plan for this rebuild. You know, what are you going to do with the cap space, with the draft picks, with the talent, with Tua, with Mike McDaniel? And if it gets to that point where, you know, as soon as the playoffs start, the Dolphins start interviewing GMs, and, you know, top candidate, Hallaby, let's just throw his name out there. And he says, I will do this, 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 and this. And I'm going to move on from Mike because I have a guy that I think is better than Mike. Or, you know, I can get so-and-so to come in, be a head coach, and instantly turn this franchise around. But then you have maybe 10th on the list, a guy come in and he'll say, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And I'm going to keep Mike. Because if Stephen Ross sits there and goes, I'm going to go with this guy because he'll keep Mike, then what are you doing? Then what is the point? What is that letter you put out, you know, early this year, talking about status quo is not good enough, and I don't say blah, blah, blah. If you're just going to settle because you're not going to listen to what the best is out there.
In there, it was like we felt like Woody Johnson wanted to keep Rex Ryan, and so you tell him that, yeah, I'm going to keep Rex Ryan. Now, I think I hope Stephen Ross is smarter than that. It's like, hey, it's up to you. We just have no problem with this guy.
Please.
Do you think you can make it work? And if I'm a GM, though, politically, it's just smart, because what does this option give you as a GM? It gives you a 1-year scot-free reset button. Where
all right, they're kind of stepping on my toes a little bit on what I want to talk about. So yeah, this is what is being talked about around the NFL, and you know, my whole thought process on why the Dolphins might not make a change, right? First thing on my list is the cap. And there's a situation where 2026 is more about tearing it down, right? And let's real quick, you know, we'll look at it here. Let me pop myself back up here, my beautiful little face. So this is the cap space for 2026. As of right now, we are 11 million over the cap. Tyreek Hill will be cut. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. The man will be cut. Boom. We're now under the cap space by 12 million. Bradley Chubb most likely will be cut. Boom. We're at 19 million. There is a possibility that Austin Jackson gets cut, but not a definite. Jordan Brooks, I don't think he'll get cut. Obviously, Jalen Waddle's not getting cut. Steelers not getting cut. Alec Ingold might be a cap casualty, and he might get cut or shaken down. Minka Fitzpatrick might be a trade situation, right? What else can I do for you? Aaron Brewer, I think he stays. Chop, no. James Daniels, he's not going anywhere with his contract. Terrell Dotson, they can move on from him if they want to. Again, this is a cap shakedown of 2026. That's kind of what I'm thinking this might be if they keep Mike McDaniel. Who else could be released? Westbrook Akine, Juju Brents is going to stay. You want that young talent. Jordan Phillips, Quinn Ewers. Nope. And then all these guys down here is pennies on the dollar. So boom, right? You make these moves. You make these what? I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 moves, and we're at 32 million in cap space. Obviously, you have to fill in a lot because you see all the free agents over here. And at this point, I don't know the exact number of players on this players on the contract is 38, right? So you have 38 players. You need to get to 54. So you have to add about 12 more players. No, 16 more players. 32 million, and you also have the draft. They add players. Again, don't expect a quick turnaround if they keep Mike McDaniel, right? So that's 2026. Here's your cap, right? And then here you see your cap at 143 million. Obviously, players are going to be added. You also can sign players and make their contract hit in 2026 not that big and make it bigger in 2027, as you can see. Also, if you scroll down here, they don't have the dead cap on here. But then in 2027, you can cut Tua. and save $21 million, right? Because that's how his contract looks. In 2027, you save $21 million, right? You do a post June 1st, you save $40 million. So, you know, that's the whole situation there with Tua Tagovailoa. And then all of a sudden in 2027, and again, it's not going to be 165 million. It might be closer. Again, you got maybe closer to 100 million, whatever. But now you have the cap space. Now you have the ability to then go out and really build your team, right? 2026 is more about tearing it down, really getting it down to the studs, keeping the core talent in Waddle, in Sealer, in Kenneth Grant, Chop Robinson, Jonah, who else? Patrick Paul, Jalen Wright, Malik Washington, Ollie Gordon, Zeke Biggers, Taj Washington, like all of these young guys that you have on this team, you keep those guys and you start building, right? Because again, and then there's also the draft. From what I'm hearing, and I'm going to do a video about this as well, the 2026 draft isn't all that it's cracked up to be. It's the 2027 draft that is the sexy draft. That is the draft that you want to get yourself a quarterback, you go to 2027. You want to get yourself some stud receiver, you go to 2027. 2026 is more about getting your foundation, whereas 2027 is where you make the big move. So again, there's that situation for 2026. And again, it might be a more enticing situation 2027. Now, you bring in a GM and say said GM comes in and he gives you the whole spiel and you but if you think about it this way as well, if you do all that, it kind of counteracts giving Mike McDaniel a shot, because what shot does he have with a roster that's kind of torn down? You know, but that's kind of where he's going to be at. See, this is why I'm torn and I don't think they're going to keep him, but I'm trying to give you a logistic response on why they might keep him. But in all honesty, if I'm a betting man, I think it's 60-40 that they don't keep him. Obviously 60, they don't keep him because of the simple fact that 2026, they really need to get the cap fixed. And if they're in that type of situation, then you keep Champ Kelly as well as Mike McDaniel and just be like, fix this team. And then 2027, this team is way more enticing for a GM and a head coach because you have cap space. You'll have higher draft picks because, again, it's like 2019 where we weren't tanking this year because, again, the players that we added. 2026 is probably going to be a little bit of a tank year because of fixing the cap, getting rid of Hill and Bradley Chubb and Alec Ingold, Micah Fitzpatrick, all of these guys, and bringing in, relying on youth, right? Relying on the farm system and going out and getting younger guys and seeing if you could find diamonds in the rough. So, that's when you're tanking. That's when, because you put competitive guys on the field like Jordan Brooks, like Terrell Dotson, like Micah Fitzpatrick, Bradley Chubb, Zach Sealer. These guys are competitive guys that don't give a crap what you tell them. They're going to try to go out there and win. That's something you're not tanking. 2026, you might be tanking, right? Because you're going to add those players. So 2027 is a little bit more enticing to the GM and the head coach because you got draft picks. You got cap space. All of a sudden you get your quarterback. It's a situation where you might get a top head coaching candidate. Who that might be, I have no idea. Also, there's that connection, the Shanahan tree with Champ Kelly, who was with the Denver Broncos and I think around 2007, and then Mike McDaniel also with the Shanahan tree. So that's kind of where you can go into on why they might keep the two of them. Because 2026 might be a throwout year. But if you don't want to waste a year and you want to be competitive, you can keep Mike and see what he can do. In that situation, I go out and I get the best GM, like I told you. And if that best GM is like, I don't know if I can keep Mike, you do your best to be like, listen, 2026, we're not going to hold it against you. We want to see what you can do with Mike, because apparently he couldn't work with Chris Grier. We want to see what you can do if you're more stern and don't get him everything he wants, aka fast receivers and pass rushers. Because Mike McDaniel has come out and said if he had it his way, he'd draft the pass rusher in the first round every draft. He said that. You know? So, you know, you bring in that sound GM who's like, listen, this is what I would do. I'd focus on the trenches. I get the run game going. I make us a more physical team. I would go out and sign da-da-da-da-da, but I'm not giving big back-ended contracts because we have a lot of dead cap we have to deal with, and, you know, talks up everything. You just say, 2026 is a free year for you. 2026 is about you fixing the team and seeing if you can figure out if Mike is the next coach and if he figured out his stuff. And if he doesn't, you fire him. You can fire him mid-season. I don't give a crap. And then you find your guy in 2027. That might be a situation where Mike stays in 2026. Because again, if there's that hoopla, because the owners talk at the owners meeting that, oh, Mike McDaniel, it's going to be a hot commodity. Look what he did for you guys in 2023. You can't put on those graduation goggles and look at 2023 and go, oh, that was such a good year. It was a nice year. It was a really nice year. But let's not close our eyes and get neuralized for the past 2 years where we started 2-6. So again, if I had it my way, I'm moving on from Mike McDaniel. I'm cleaning house. I'm bringing in a GM. I'm letting the GM find the head coach, whoever the next best thing is, whether it's whether this GM thinks it is a seasoned vet of a head coach or a next best up and coming head coach from a coordination position. And I'm telling these two guys, just fix the team. Do whatever you need to do. You want to gut it and have 2026 be a throwaway year so we can fix the cap and fix the pay the bill, that's fine. You get a free year. I'll give you 4 years. You got a free year in 2026 and you get 3 years, but I better see a playoff win in 2028 or 2029. If not, you're fired. That's what I'm doing. But again, you can see a possibility where they keep Mike because of the chatter, like these two reporters said around the league, where, hey, Mike McDaniel, he's going to be a hot commodity, because I understand that he's a good assistant, a good offensive coordinator, and a good offensive mind, and he does help these young, talented quarterbacks. He's helped Tua. Tua has gotten better, except for the past 2 years. He's kind of on the downslope with Mike McDaniel. But it's not about, because there's also the video that came out of him and Deebo Samuel and them hugging and stuff, and everyone's like, see, he's a player's coach, and this is why he has his players. You need to be able to coach the 53, 60, you got to count in practice squad. You got to be able to coach everybody, right? Obviously coaches are going to have their favorites, but you have to have command and respect over the entire locker room. And Mike has command and respect, but it might not be the entire locker room. Obviously, you saw what happened with Jalen Ramsey. You saw what Javon Holland. You saw, all of these guys left and they started chattering and stuff. So there's that situation. But overall, I could see why they might keep him, because again, the chatter and, hey, we got to give him another shot. But it's like, how many more shots are you going to give him? Back-to-back 2-6s, that should be a fireable offense. I don't give a crap what the excuses are. So again, I can see why they keep him, but again, I had a decision. I'm moving on from him. But before we get out of here, I do want to shout out today's sponsor as well, Sleeper. Go check them out. Use the promo code DDW. You get a 100% match up to $100, and you get a free $20 entry, no deposit needed on your first try if you just want to give it a whirl. Go check them out. Shout out Sleeper. You always see them up in that top corner, the official sponsor of the channel. Love them. Love using them. I will see you Sunday. I have a Tua video that I'm working on. I don't think I'm going to put it out tomorrow. I might put it out tomorrow, but I'll see you Sunday. We're going to talk about how Week 12 affected the Dolphins positively or negatively. So far, Thursday's game of Buffalo losing hurt the Dolphins in a way, because now Houston kind of pushed away from the Dolphins when it comes to trying to get that last wild card for the people who want to still make the playoffs. But I'll see you in the next one. Like usual, stay classy. FN's out.